Good morning, everyone. I'm Ari Jesselson,
I'm Joshua Ament, and
and this
this
is Two
is,
Fans Podcast.
we're going to need to work on the intro, but
Yeah, definitely.
here we are.
It's a work in progress for us and you. Hope your day's been
Yeah,
going well.
mine, I'd say mine has. I've spent past hour shoveling snow, so that was kind of fun. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what you get for being in winter in New York, you know?
That is fair. So one thing I realized yesterday, we probably should have gone over, being that these are our first couple of episodes, is just a little brief introduction to who we are and what we want to bring uh, in these podcasts. So, I mean, I'll start with me, Josh Raymond, big Chicago fan, as I said yesterday, as I will continue to say. Cubs and Bears in particular, of course, Bulls and Blackhawks too. Um, that's, I guess, really when you'll listen long enough, you'll get to feel my odd tendencies and all that. All right, a little about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ari Jesselson. I'm a big Mets and Browns fan. I was a Browns fan because when I moved to America, the only player I can remember was Brandon Weeden of the Cleveland Browns, one of our many quarterbacks before we found our savior in Baker. So I just stuck with the team throughout everything.
Never actually heard that story. It's
Really?
yeah, you never mentioned it.
I
Oh,
thought
whatever.
you
So,
did. Whatever.
all right, yeah. So I guess basically, talk about like the sort of ideas behind like how we sort of got to this point.
Yeah. Do we want to get the glorified for the fans or just the truth?
Um, we'll give the TLDR. It's basically, I mean, just from before, like even I sort of realized like any sort of discussions we would have on our own, just kind of felt like it would always circle back to sports in some facet. And then Ari had the genius idea, like, hey, why don't we do a podcast of this? And I'm like, you know what? That works. So what we really want to do is bring these sort of discussions we have, these conversations, bring them to light, be able to highlight a couple of maybe underrated stories, give our takes on what's going on in the sports world.
Yeah. So one thing that I really do believe in, at least in the modern day of sports, is that rookies don't have the time to develop and grow, and people expect them to be the best player they can be right away. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's how I feel in the rookie world.
Um, yeah, where do you want to start with that?
Well,
I guess. Okay, yeah. No, I'll let you. I asked you
no,
that.
you go first because I just want to bring in the stats of everything.
Oh, I was actually about to do just that. I was looking at when you mentioned this, and I'm thinking like, you know what? Like, of course, because we glorify like we tend to glorify the best of the rookies, of course, like rookie of the year and whatnot. So I'm trying to so I look and I'm thinking, well, what's the disparity between a rookie of the year, who's supposed to be like a future all-star, future superstar, compared to, I don't know, league average, all-star, superstar, whatever you have. So I looked at two of them, John Morant from Rookie Year 2020 NBA, and then last year's Offensive Rookie of the Year, Kyler Murray. Um, so Morant, among point guards, because of course, like rebounds and blocks and all that can get snubbed out by big man. But Morant among point guards ranked number 5 in field goal percentage, number 25 in 3-point and free throw percentage, 18th in rebounds per game, 8th in assists per game, 24th in steals per game, 18th in blocks per game, 5th worst in turnovers per game, and 16 in points per game. So you can see those are like, I mean, you have a couple of outliers, some good, some bad, but it's generally a pretty mediocre season if that's not a rookie. And I say the same with Kyler Murray. His rookie season was ranked number 15th in completion percentage, 15th in pass yards, 21 in pass touchdowns, 13th most interceptions, 22 in yards per attempt, 21st in passer rating. But he did also redeem himself with his running ability, number 2 among quarterbacks in rushing yards and number 4 in rushing touchdowns.
Let me guess. Sorry to cut you off, but let me guess. Only behind Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, also in rush touchdowns behind Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson, I believe. But you can see that these are just generally among rookies. They come in, and this is the expected ceiling that they have. So really, next time you sort of think like, oh, he's like you see a young rookie, and people tend to talk about him. Like, look at these numbers a little more closely, and you'll see that it's certainly a good start, but there are ways to go.
Yeah, and exactly how I feel. In fact, I kind of took up some of our favorite athletes or some of the best athletes, and I compared I brought 3 facts: their rookie year, the year after, and their best season. And some of these big top tier players, probably the goats of their sport, didn't have such great starts. Drew Brees' first full season, he was 8-8. He was 17 TDs and 16 interceptions. And his last full season, he was 7-9, which isn't as good, but he did have 5,000 plus yards, 37 touchdowns, and 15-7 interceptions, which is a much better from his previous 16 game, from his first ever 16 full season. Going back to Kobe, rest in peace, Mamba. But when we go back to his first season in 1996-97, 15.5 minutes and only 7.6 points. You could, as a top 15 pick, that's not good at all. But when you go to his next year, 15.4 points in 26 minutes, it's much better. It's a better, you see the progression, you see how much he's totaling by. In his best season ever, statistically, 05 and 06, 41 minutes and 35.4 points. That was not even prime Mambo for a lot of the people. Looking back to Peyton Manning, who recently got dethroned as being in the GOAT conversation due to Drew Brees' yards and Tom Brady's accolades. He was drafted in 1998 with a first overall pick. He was 3-13, 26 TDs, 28 interceptions. The following year, 1999, he flipped that around by making it 13-3, 26 TDs to 15 interceptions and a Pro Bowl. You could see the upward projection of how much he's going to be as a player. His best season ever, 2013, 55 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. That was the year they went to Super Bowl 48, and the Legion of Boom shut them down. And going back to Henrik Sedin, one of the best Canucks ever, in the 2000-2001 season, he had played 82 games, 9 goals, 20 assists, 29 points, and a plus-minus of -2. That is not good at all, especially people, if that's just general, that's a good player, you expect that to be an aging veteran, not a rookie. His next year, 2001-2002, 82 games again, but he had 16 goals and 20 assists with 36 total points, having a plus-minus of 9. In his best season ever, 2009, 82 games again, but 29 goals and 83 assists, having a total of 112 points and a plus-minus of 35. So when we see all these stars, you could see that they didn't have such a great beginning record. They didn't have a great rookie season, and compared to a lot of players in their classes, they were looking to be terrible decisions.
And all right, so now, no, were you continuing?
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I just want to bring that because you're mentioning like all these legends. Yeah, they have a little bit of rocky starts, and so what does this sort of say for today? Because the sports culture today is not what it was back in 2000 when you had like Drew Brees, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Henrik Sedin, like all these legends. They had the time. They had their fans had the patience to watch them grow. Nowadays, sort of the more like instant gratification society we have now in the sports world is basically you have 2 years to prove it or you're out. And really, you see that with guys like Josh Rosen. You can see that with people being a little impatient about Zion Williamson. Feels like trying to like rush him back to the court. You saw last year with the minutes restriction and all that. And what does that bode for? I'll point it towards one rookie in particular that I feel like it's a lot of negative criticism, even though he's only a rookie, and that's Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, that actually brings me back to some of the stats. I think a big part of that is social media and the access to clips for any play of any game. So you can really see where they go and how well they do. And with a lot of rookies succeeding off the bat, people really want these players to develop right now, which is a big problem as most people aren't like that. And going back to recently, just this year, Tua Tagovailoa, he was what's it called? He was 6-3 out of his 9 starts, 1,814 yards, which isn't bad for 9 games, and 11 TDs to 5 interceptions. That's not bad at all for 9 games, especially as a rookie. And people are saying he needs to step up, he needs to be better, we should trade him away. But I don't see that. As a rookie coming to the NFL off a major injury, remember that, he played good.
And I would say remember one more thing on top of, yes, he's coming back from injury. He was supposed to redshirt the season. The plan for the Dolphins was to just have Ryan Fitzpatrick play all 16 games. And then because the Texans just decided to, stick with Bill O'Brien for too long, and the Dolphins were guaranteed a good draft pick, they decided, hey, why not put Tua in? Because there's no risk. But that was never, at least not in the offseason, the plan.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brian Flores was a second-year coach for the Dolphins. This was supposed to be considered a rebuild year for them. These weren't supposed to be teams of a high playoff contenders or anything like that. So, in going back to Fitzpatrick, he was on track to have one of his best seasons, but he was supposed to be the main guy throughout. But putting in Tua, and you could see how he was in a rookie season, coming off what he said supposed to be a redshirted, and coming off a major injury, I say we got to give him some time to play.
Yeah, one more thing I will. No, you go.
No, go.
I interrupted you for 2 minutes. I interrupted you too many times.
No, I do that also, but because I want to add on more to it with Josh Rosen back in 2018. I think his first mistake obviously was after the draft when he said that there's so many mistakes ahead of him. But going back to his rookie season, it wasn't completely terrible. He was 3-10, which is not good at all. But he had 2,278 yards, 11 TDs, and 14 interceptions. Again, going back to Peyton Manning, we see more interceptions than TDs. The problem is when we go back to the 2018 Cardinals, it was such a lackluster offense. Christian Kirk was a rookie. Larry Fitzgerald was 35 years old. And their tight end, Jermaine Gresham, was 30-year-old, whose last Pro Bowl was in 2012. And when we go back,
their head coach Steve, not to mention just their head coach Steve Wilkes that year, was both his first and last year as Cardinals head coach.
Yeah, and that was what I want to say. It was his only year with the team. If they develop him more, stay who they had, I think he could have been something, maybe not the best, but he could have been serviceable to above average. And also, I get why you dropped him. Kyler Murray was on the board. He was there for the taking. Klinsberg, he worked with Murray. But when we go back to Kyle Murray, exactly, you can see a lot of bias with rookies. As his first year, he was 5-10-1 with 22 TDs and 12 interceptions. The next year, with DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best wide receiver in the league, he was 8-8, 26 TDs and 12 interceptions. Not better than his rookie season. But you'll never see people arguing that Kyler Murray's a bad QB. So you can kind of see how there is bias to who is in that position.
I would have to argue with that on the Kyler Murray didn't improve last year. I did mention his ranks among quarterbacks in 2019. It was about 15th in completion pass yards, 21 in touchdowns, overall 21st in passer rating. And unfortunately, I don't have the 2020 stats on hand, but at least regular season, I certainly do know that he ranked top 15 in just about every single one of those categories. Not to mention, of course, his ever-improving running ability.
Yeah, and he is a mobile quarterback. He's a running QB, and I think he's good. But when you look at the stats on paper, they don't really pop out compared to the previous year. And I think Kyler Murray also needs time to develop to really get his motion in the league to work it out. But the problem is, what I'm trying to say is that you'll never see people complain about Kyler Murray. They would never see people complain about him. You will see people complaining about Tua or Rosen, and you just want
Or
them
Mitchell
to be the new
Trubisky.
guy. Yes, exactly.
Yes, I have a lot to say about Trubisky. I'm gonna do my best not to just save that all
Yeah,
for one rant.
yeah. We'll
But
put
again,
that
like
for another
you
episode.
see him in a bad situation with the Bears offense with Matt Nagy, and you don't really see a lot of people criticizing the system around him. They trade for Nick Foles. Apparently, that was supposed to be the answer. It wasn't, and there's Trubisky is still being made the scapegoat.
Yeah, and just going back to a little bit off the Bears thing before we jump off, because we can make that a whole separate issue or topic, that when Nick Foles struggled in the Matt Nagy offense, people blame Nagy in the offensive scheme. When Trubisky didn't do well in that scheme, they all blame Trubisky, kind of showing the biasness people have for QBs and especially for other positions. Just for the people at home, all these stats are coming from Pro Football Reference, Pro Basketball Reference, all those pro references sites. So you can easily Google these at home.
Yeah, I did on my end. I guess kind of just want to relate it a little bit back to two in terms of this bias from the rookies. Is that basically you see like there are a couple times I see Tua again make a bad throw, which listen, he's a rookie, it's gonna happen. You make rookie mistakes, and yet I'll hear like Tony Romo say, now Tua here, this right here is a rookie mistake, as if like yes, it's a bad thing, but as if he's not supposed to make those mistakes. He's a rookie. He's supposed to make those rookie mistakes.
Yeah, and especially coming off of a guy like Tony Romo, who I believe is an underrated QB when we look back at the best of the 2010s. But going back to him, he wasn't that great of a QB. He missed a target slot his first full season ever. While it was a Pro Bowl, he was only 6-4. He had 19 TDs and 13 interceptions, kind of showing that he has made mistakes in the past. We have seen him with fumble issues when he's still playing. He had injury issues, which might have been a lot of that issue. But he was still also a young guy getting to the system, and he still needed time to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one more thing in terms of not just rookies, but I guess young players as a whole, and improving, not just in the NFL, but just across all leagues, is that they're getting younger. In 2012 to 2013, the average player age for the NBA was 26.7. That itself was down from over 27 in the early aughts. Last year, it was down to 26.1, which I believe is the lowest it's been all century. And you see like the results of that is you have more rookies, more unproven, undrafted commodities. So you see a lot more of these success stories, like Kendrick Nunn on the Heat from last year, just this year, Emmanuel Quickly on the Knicks. I see these guys getting more chances, and you see teams being able to succeed with that. With the NFL, of course, because you have sort of the 3 years in college before you can declare for the draft, a lot of people will wait till their senior year, but you get to see a lot more throughout the decade. This is according to, I believe, Medium, but I might be wrong. You have 49 juniors applied for the NFL draft in 2011. In 2018, that number more than doubled to 106. And I feel like with football, it's a little bit different because it's more of a system heavy sport, a coach heavy sort of game where players have to understand their role in the system as well as bring the talent necessary for it. And because you're gonna have more of these younger guys. It's just generally not what the NFL has been made for. Like teams may look at inexperienced players; they'll see as too risky. At some point, the talent is gonna have to outweigh the risk, and NFL coaches are gonna have to change. You're probably not gonna see the sort of both in character with Bill Belichick, kind of like stern Patriot way, kind of that you see like it's hard to implement, and I think it's going to be even harder with younger rookies if the draft age does decrease, especially when you have these younger guys. They're going to want coaches that are going to be able to sort of relate more to them. Um, one more sort of one more sort of consequence from that could possibly be, and I think you sort of do see it even now, or I guess last year and next year with sort of transition leagues. With you had like the AAF that didn't work out so well. The XFL worked a lot better again until the pandemic hit. But it sort of can fill the role of sort of the transition from college to the NFL, or maybe for those prospects out of high school for those 3 years to sort of be in a league that can prepare them so much more for the NFL than college can. And then again, just if not that, then I think coaches are just going to have to be able to simplify NFL systems and not make it so complex again. Like I'll go back to the Bears after 2018, where people forget Trubisky and the Bears offense had a good season. And Nagy said, "Hey, we want to take it to the next level. We'll expand the playbook and make it more complicated," and that just didn't work. I don't think that will work for a lot of guys, especially when they're younger, when their minds may not even be fully matured yet.
Yeah, and going back to the Bears, you might want Bears fans, including you, Josh. You might want to cover your ears for this, but
oh no,
you know what? Yeah, but the Bears. People forget that the Bears were a playoff team, and the only reason they didn't go farther was because of Double Doink.
No,
Sorry to
we
bring that
remember.
up again.
We very
But
much so remember.
yeah, but I feel like a lot of people forget that the Bears could have had maybe not such a deep playoff run, but they would have gone farther than where they were. But they try to change it up, and as we see now in the NFL, it's a more QB running league, a more throw the ball down more. It's mute. The game is changing every year. The game's changing, and if coaches aren't willing to realize that, it's going to be hard for them to relate to the players. It's going to be hard to win games. Going back to the Browns thing with Freddie Thumbface Kitchens. Yeah, what's it called? You could see audios of him having fights with teammates. You could see like people like Baker Mayfield saying, "I really don't like the guy," and you just enable to really be one with the players or the fans, causing such a lackluster season.
Again, so you can definitely. I think what we can both take away from this is just sort of that the sort of harsh sort of criticisms of rookies certainly for the sports world, both within teams and then for outward with the way things are trending with leagues getting younger, with coaches having to be more personable. It just doesn't seem to be sustainable. But clicks are clicks, and anger gets clicks.
Oh yeah, I'll drink my Gatorade to that. It's yellow, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think we're done with this topic.
Yeah, I think we can move on to something a little bit more similar. But before some rookies are rookies, they are draft picks, and draft picks are used in a lot of ways for trading. So we want to look at that and look at how they've been used, what sort of value has been assigned to them, in particular first round picks, just because they're, I don't know, a little more eye popping.
Yeah.
And sort of see, are they being valued the right way?
Well, if you're going off to me, for first round picks especially, they're seen as the best of that year. the best QB maybe in the class, the best of the past 10 years, 5 years, the best maybe even ever are being taken first overall, top fives, top tens in the first rounds. And not even the first round, maybe the top 20 picks are the big essential ones that people think of. But when we really look at it, I don't know how you want to shift the argument for this, but the first round, while it is important, we've seen how it's not as deficit for team success, that you don't need to draft these high prospects to be able to win games.
I mean, yeah, just look at the Rams. We mentioned yesterday they haven't had a first round pick since 2016, and they just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they just traded away their 2016 and 15 first rounders. But even going back to the Patriots, one of the best dynasties of sports, maybe even ever, we can't really. Who was the last first round pick that anyone really remembers? You know what I mean?
Honestly, I can remember just like N'Keal Harry, but
Yeah,
I mean, but yeah,
as
far as memorable, as far as made an impact, I can totally agree with your point. Wait, no,
yeah,
Sony Michel, but then that's it's an exception. So
that's the only exception. And what we see now is that there are some things about his performance and maybe him leaving the team. So we don't even know. He did have an impact back then, and especially for a Super Bowl. But I think that's the only exception to a degree.
yeah, I just feel like when we started talk about first round picks, I think there are sort of two things we need to realize, and I don't think that enough people sort of realize that is number one is that a pick itself isn't guaranteed for, I guess sort of we can like it applies to both of them, but a pick is never a guarantee. The first thing is really the first round pick really only has more of a value because it gives you more options on who to pick.
Yeah, it's essentially is a name brand thing that you're the first overall. You could pick from whoever you want.
Yeah, essentially, like there's nothing that is set in stone that says, oh, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to pick a better player than the Buffalo Bills, but they have more options to take players. So and they have a higher priority with who to pick. So yeah, there's a very likely chance that they're going to take a better player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, and I guess kind of with that pick's not guaranteed, is when you trade a player for one or multiple picks, is that it's essentially a gamble that says, hey, I'm going to trade you a player, and that player, be it a Pro Bowl or All Pro, what have you, has this definite amount of like player value attached to them, however you want to define it. And so what we want in return is enough of these picks, enough of these chances for players that we feel confident that we can use those picks to get back the same amount of value we're giving up.
If
And
not
it's the
more.
same thing. Yeah, and that's the same thing with trading away the picks, is that we're getting definite value, and we're going to give up this conditional value, and we want to make sure we want to give up as little conditional value as possible. And really, I think because of that, when you think of first round picks, it's really not necessarily like a 1-to-1. Like first round pick for one-time Pro Bowler. Is that it's a first round pick that may or may not be a Pro Bowler. You don't know. To really give multiple first round picks and higher chance of being a Pro Bowler for this All Pro. I'm sorry if that analogy doesn't make sense.
No, I get it. But what's it called? And going back to the draft, especially, a draft doesn't guarantee just because the prospects are good. It doesn't mean that the players are going to be good. Like when we go back to the 1992 NFL draft, arguably one of the worst, if not the worst, NFL draft. When we look back at the first round, the longevity, the longest player stayed for was Troy Vincent, a defensive back drafted by Miami in the seventh round, and the seventh pick, and Bob Woodfield, a tackle drafted by the Falcons. They both only played till 2006. Think about that for a minute. 1992, 2006. While that does seem a long time, you expect your first overall picks, your few of these guys, to last longer in the leagues. In fact, Indianapolis had the first and second overall pick. With the first round, they got defensive end Steve Edman. He only lasted to 97. The second pick, they got Quentin Coriat, a linebacker. He only lasted to 99. So it doesn't guarantee that these players are going to be good just because they're supposed to be the top of the year.
Absolutely, and I think I first want to mention back in terms of the trading. I'm sorry that we're sort of flip flopping like topic these angles back and forth, but sort of how they've been using trades in the NFL and for the basketball heads out there, sort of how they're being used right now, because there are a lot of these like 4 or 5 pick trades that have happened. So first for the NFL, like I think the biggest first round trade you can think of is the Herschel Walker trade, which essentially set the Cowboys up for a dynasty. There's 3 first round picks and a whole bunch of late round picks, and really it was the first pick that they got from that deal. I believe that 1990 first rounder that they used in a deal to trade up and get Emmitt Smith, and that already replenished that sort of value that they gave up from Herschel Walker. You can see, and the rest was just sort of insurance, excess, whatever you want to call it. And then I guess sort of on the other end, again, I'll talk about the Bears. The Khalil Mack trade from a couple of years ago was 2 first round picks. Those first round picks ended up being Josh Jacobs and Damon Arnett. If you replace this sort of allure of the draft pick would you trade Khalil Mack for Josh Jacobs and Damon Arnett? It doesn't seem like as fair a deal anymore, does it?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I'll go back, leave it on one more positive note with the Stephon Diggs deal, just for that 1 first round pick. Like you mentioned yesterday, Ari, Diggs for Jefferson, where that sort of felt like a fair trade for both sides, seemingly equal value received on both ends. Again, pending Jefferson's career, but it certainly started off strong.
Yeah. Well, also, kind of going to the flip-flopping, a draft pick doesn't really make the player at the end of the day. We see a lot of these guys taken later in the round. I know this is of a different time and a different era, but Nolan Ryan, one of the best pitchers of all time, was drafted with a 226th pick in the 1965 MLB draft.
I would just think, like, imagine if the Patriots just for whatever reason decided, let's trade this 6th rounder we have in the what was it, 98 draft, I want to say.
I think
that ends up being 99. That ends up being Tom Brady.
Exactly.
The pick and the player is a definite alignment to it.
Yeah, and going back, like, it's just so most people are just going to say, oh, it's just the 199th pick. It doesn't mean anything. So, and at the end of the day, like you said again, the player doesn't define what position you were. I mean, for hockey, Henrik Zetterberg was drafted with the 210th overall pick in the 99 draft. So it really depends how much work you put in and how much you really want to prove yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like also a big issue with it is the higher you're drafted, the more publicity you're going to get, the more chances you might have for the organization, the more, I guess, tolerance you might have they might get, that an organization might give you. When you're drafted kind of later, you're not given that chance. You're not seen as the guy. You're just seen as another pick.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why sort of like for every one of those success stories I mentioned with like guys like Kendrick Nunn, guys like Emmanuel Quickly, you're probably going to see like dozens of other just sort of undrafted guys that will sign like 10-day deals, and then just won't make it anywhere because maybe never had a chance, maybe never shine in practice, maybe just didn't have the right coach that saw how to use him.
Yeah, and I feel like also going back of that, most people aren't given that chance just to do anything. I remember as a Browns fan, Damon Chichi Giuseppe, a great story of a man from homeless being signed to the Browns. He had that kick return in the offseason 2 years ago, and he was seen to be a hero for the Browns and a motivational person for not just the Browns fans, but for the entire NFL, going from a homeless man who would sleep in 24-hour gyms to being on an NFL roster. He got cut that offseason, and I remember so many people, including myself, being disappointed with that. And we could see his talent there. He did return it to the crib. So I think also if he was a first rounder, even a second rounder, he would definitely be on that roster.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just because I really want to get to sort of the NBA trades with these sort of so many first round picks at once, and just sort of what it kind of like how it kind of we're valuing picks, or we valuing them too much, too little, what have you. Is that first of all, we'll go back a couple of years for Sam Presti's wheeling and dealing. For Paul George, I believe from ESPN, 5 first round picks, 2 pick swaps, which really sort of improves the amount of options, plus a first round pick from the year before in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is essentially 5 plus 2 plus 1 would be 8. 8 different expanded options with what you have. Now, granted, the Clippers, of course, when they acquire Paul George, it's kind of set in the Thunder's mind that it's not going to be a lottery pick. And did a little bit of research, and I believe it's about a little under 10% of non-lottery first-round picks that end up being all-star or somewhat all-star caliber. So really, when you have those 5 picks plus the other couple of odds plus the first round pick from last year, who actually was a lottery pick, it gets you about like I believe would be a 70-ish% chance that one of them pans out. Someone check my math there. Not to mention, of course, in within that there are going to be multiple in that deal, and then also just recently James Harden. For 3 first round picks, 4 pick swaps, as well as Karis LeVert.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, after you.
Seriously, this is gonna get awkward.
Just thinking back to the picks, what we see with Oklahoma City Thunder, how they have so many that they have 7, I believe it's 17 first round picks through 2026. And when you see how much talent they have to trade away from it, it doesn't guarantee the success all the way through. What's most likely,
but what it does guarantee is that they're going to have a lot of chances to draft a lot of all-stars.
Yeah, or have a lot of chances to trade away those picks for a lot of all-stars.
That too. So really, what we sort of that I don't know sort of how much we consciously realize it as we're talking about it, but as far as draft capital, what it really is it's just potential. It's just the odds. It's just what can be.
Yeah. That's all. You said it perfectly. I don't think I could add any more to that to really express the point. But if you are an athlete, high school, college, whatever, if you are listening to this, just know that it doesn't matter where you picked it. It just matters how much work you're going to put into your goal and your vision.
Could not have said it any better myself. And that is about as good a note as any to end it off on. So thank you everyone for listening, for bearing with us once again. If you have any questions, comments, or something you want us to talk about, you can always email us to fanspodcast@gmail.com. No caps, no spaces, but
And the
number
number
two.
two.
Yep, number two. So that being said, thank you so much for listening. We do this every single day, Monday through Friday, on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. So until next time, we will talk to you then.